Well, hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. Very, very early in the morning, I know, for Josh. Thanks so much for coming for our next installment. I think we're up to the 5th episode of the Kubernetes by Example Insider show, where we talk to people about kind of their involvement in Kubernetes and to try to get a sense of, as you've probably heard me say before, getting the philosophy behind a piece of software often helps understanding where you can predict it, what kinds of things should happen, where it's going to go in the future. And so we try to give you some of those insights into the software, and particularly Kubernetes, so that you can be kind of a little bit more well-rounded in understanding of that application and where you might want to use it or deploy it or how you should go about it and what you think will be happening in the future. So Josh, thanks for being on the show with me. We know you're deeply involved in the Kubernetes community.
Yeah, happy to be here, and I thought it would be fun. We have a terrific guest on today, Savitha, who is fresh off of being release team lead for Kubernetes, a job that I had year and a half, 2 years ago. So it'll be a fun interview.
And by way of background, just so you're, I know you're a Red Hat employee, and you're involved in the Kubernetes, kind of ecosystem. But what exactly is your role there for Red Hat?
Well, for Red Hat, I am the Kubernetes community manager. So Kubernetes is a really big project, and so in addition to having lots of engineers working on it, some like easily a couple hundred at Red Hat. We also try to assign some people to be effectively project management staff.
Awesome.
Because in a project with thousands of contributors, you actually need people doing management things. So that's what I do for Red Hat.
Awesome.
Yeah, from Kubernetes perspective, I'm on the contributor experience SIG these days, which means helping manage all of Kubernetes contributors, particularly around some of our mentoring programs.
Right. So, I actually I realized I didn't really introduce myself either. I'm Langdon White. I'm actually currently a faculty member over at Boston University in the computing and data science faculty, and where we're trying to build a program that is a little bit more practice oriented, and specifically I'm teaching data science and some software engineering. So, but to get right into it, Mina, we'd like to welcome you on the show as usual. And if you could drop in and maybe give us, what's been going on since the last time we did the show. We're always excited to hear kind of the current news, and you're our, news person.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Hi, Langdon. Hi, Josh. This was a very eventful month for the Kubernetes and open source community. We've had 3 pretty cool events. We had the CNCF flagship conference KubeCon in Los Angeles between October 11th and 15th. We had Linux Foundation's Open Source Summit in Seattle from September 27th to the 30th. And then we had All Things Open in Raleigh from October 17th to the 19th. We do have some recaps of these events. So if you guys are interested in hearing more about what was talked about, definitely check out KBE News. You'll be able to find a couple articles there to tell you. So we have a couple highlights, obviously, from the past month, as we always do. We have the Kubernetes object storage best practices that we wanted to share with you. This is a technical article from Tilly that explains why and how object storage is important and how to do that. Like Kubernetes itself, the underlying object storage should be distributed, decoupled, declarative, and immutable, he says. And then we have an article that tells us why and how to deploy Kubernetes on bare metal and why that might be important. The recent CNCF survey reveals that containers are increasingly used in production, with about 92% of respondents reporting using containers in production environments, up from 84% in 2019 and 300% from 2016. As the most popular orchestration tool, Kubernetes are driving the container revolution. Providing portability and repeatability, they help organizations automate infrastructure management tasks and modernize their IT. Although Kubernetes is often associated with the public cloud, it's increasingly deployed in dedicated environments. There are a number of use cases for Kubernetes, and there are specific benefits to deploying it on bare metal. This article that we wanted to highlight identifies those use cases for Kubernetes, the benefits of deploying Kubernetes on bare metal, and actually how to do it. And then we have Rick Spencer, the vice president of platform at Influx Data, talk about the 4 expert level things he wished he'd known about Kubernetes. These are 1, cloud native applications and binaries are universes apart. 2, there are more metrics than you'll ever be able to handle. 3, set up synthetic monitoring. And 4, multi-cloud continuous delivery is hard. And as always, I will drop in the links to all of these articles so you can go ahead and read more. And then if you're still getting confused by technical Kubernetes terminology, you can go and check out common Kubernetes terminology you should know. I still get confused about them. So this was an article that really, really helped me, actually. And this list of Kubernetes terminology can prepare you to work with Kubernetes and help you better understand how exactly this container management platform functions. And then we actually have an important CNCF announcement to bring to you. There's now an entry-level Kubernetes certification to help advance cloud careers. The Linux Foundation and the CNCF, which builds sustainable ecosystem for cloud-native software, have announced the Kubernetes and Cloud Native Associate exam is now in beta testing. This certification is expected to be generally available by the end of the year, and this exam is intended to demonstrate this knowledge, including how to deploy an application using basic kubectl commands, the architecture of Kubernetes, understanding the cloud-native landscape and projects, and understanding the principles of cloud-native security. Then we have a couple of product announcements from AWS and Google. Recently, AWS announced the general availability of an Amazon managed service for Prometheus, a Prometheus-compatible monitoring service for container infrastructure and application metrics for containers. And then recently, Google announced Google Distributed Cloud, a set of hardware and software solutions to extend Google infrastructure to the edge and into customer data centers. Again, we'll be dropping in all of these links for your reference. Feel free to always check us out on KBE News. Back to you, Langdon and Josh.
Thanks so much, Mina. Yeah, the terminology article there in particular sounds like my bag of chips. I have a very hard time kind of keeping all the terminology straight, not just for Kubernetes, but kind of where it crosses over into lots of other technologies. So as always, we really appreciate you doing the news. The other thing I would kind of mention too is there was a great kind of Twitter discussion about the kind of the depths of Kubernetes that was an interesting thing to follow from another terminology perspective. If I find it while we're chatting, I'll post a link, but I can't remember where it is off the top of my head, so that's not very helpful. Josh, I think you've known Savitha for a while, and maybe you could introduce her to the show as our guest for this episode of the KBE Insider.
Yep. Hey, Savitha is a senior engineer at Red Hat. very recently at Red Hat, which we'll talk about. I is slightly less recently the release lead for the Kubernetes 1.22 release. Has been contributing to Kubernetes for at least 2 years. Longer than that? How long have you been contributing to Kubernetes?
So I have been contributing to the Kubernetes for the past 2 years that I can think of. I think since 2018 KubeCon Seattle, that's when I got all the idea of how to get started, where to get started. And as everyone, I lurked around Sig release for about like 6 months, and then I started with Sig docs, and there was an effort from Sig contributors called issue triage mentoring going on. So that's where I got to meet like so many amazing people, Rin, Marky, and so many more, Ferris, and yeah. So that's how I got started.
That's awesome. Although I will say, if it was 2018, that's pushing 3 years at this point. I know we're all old now, but
Yeah.
time does pass. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. Was that your first kind of foray into open source in general, or had you been involved in open source projects before that?
No, that was my first ever. So back
Nothing like
in
starting small.
talk about talking small, right? Starting something small, right? Yeah. So a little bit background, I got super interested in the community because I was actually doing a work project, and then I picked up Kubernetes to be the platform layer for my platform that I was creating. And I stumbled upon the community where I was getting a lot of help from the Slack channel. So I just wanted to give back. And that's how everything started. My journey started because of all the amazing warm people in the community. I mean, I am in love with Kubernetes project. If anyone can love a project, I would. I mean, I can say that, and but that the thing that keeps me going is the people.
So you came from that welcome to the release team. So how did you end up joining the release team? And I mean, like, tell us all, because a lot of our audience, maybe has heard of the Kubernetes release team but don't actually know how it works. So how did you end up joining the release team?
Of course. So the back to 2018 KubeCon, right? So Paris and SIG contributors. I always think it's SIG contributor experience and then SIG contributors. I go back and forth. Sorry for that. So SIG contributors organized the speed mentoring session. So I went to that because I wanted to give back and I didn't know where to start. And I attended their maintainer track session, and then they were like, yeah, we see new faces sitting on the other side of the. So it was like in person, and there were like two columns, and one column had all the usual active contributors, another one had all the new people sitting there shy and everything. I was one of them, and they said like, why don't you just come up for the mentoring session, speed mentoring, we have it. I went there, and there were like a lot of mentors who talked to you and gave advice on how to get started. Something that stuck to me was SIG release. I think it was Maria. I forgot her last name. Sorry about that. So they were a part of SIG release team then, and then she told like, you can go and explore this particular release team as a project because it gives an idea into various other portions of Kubernetes. It's like very new contributor friendly and everything. So I came back. I attended the meetings, like I said, diligently, still feeling overwhelmed. And I did apply twice, 1.14 and 1.15. I got this nice I didn't get selected, but I appreciate that someone who was leading was so nice, kind enough to reach out to me and say, "Hey, we do have other like experienced, or like we have made our pick. Better luck next time." Right. So then I took a break and I did my focus on the SIG contributors and SIG docs. My first PR was to fix a 404. That was the first one. And then I did a lot of work there. I reapplied after KubeCon San Diego. That was for 1.18, I think. So So that's when I got selected to be a shadow for the docs team. And then I led docs docs team for the release 1.19. And then for 1.20 and 21, I was a release lead shadow, and I eventually got to lead 1.22.
So wait, so let's talk a little bit about the docs team. So the docs team for the release is separate from Kubernetes Sig docs, the main docs team.
Yeah, you're right. So this one, the one that is a part of the release team, focuses on the features and the deprecations and everything that enhancements that goes into the particular release. So it's like a liaison. Per se, you just talk to the enhancement owner and make sure that the documentation gets the website documentation gets updated, and updating accordingly to their feature. And it also like goes into the release. Like we just don't ship the feature without the documentation or updating it. It's more like a facilitation, and you also get to review whatever they add. It gives a lot of opportunities, but the main thing that I see it as like a uh, be the person who helps the enhancement owners to get the documentation updated. So could call it like a little bit of liaison between the SIG release and SIG docs too, because you go to the SIG docs and update them on the progress of the release, what is going on, what they can expect. And the SIG docs folks are really champs, because we tell them that, hey, the deadline is coming up and you're going to get a lot of reviews. And guess what? They get like 30, 40 PR reviews in like 2 days, and they have to complete it. And they do it every single time. So extra shout out to them. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the run up to a release for I think most software projects tend to have a little bit of challenge like that. You know, they even get nicknames. I would be curious to know, like, so how do you manage kind of keeping track of what actually is going to land? You know, obviously, you know, there's, you know, let's say, right, there's a pipeline of 30 things that we think is going to land in this particular version, but, you know, 25 of them are actually making it because, you know, those PRs don't get accepted, or they need more review, or they need more time. Do you feel like the Kubernetes community tends to follow a model of we'll release it when we're ready, or do you think it tends to follow more of the we'll delay an enhancement or a feature or whatever until the next revision, rather than missing a date? You know, because there's definitely good things and bad things about both choices. I'm just curious how you feel the Kubernetes community tends to favor.
So as Josh and everyone mentioned, the project itself is like super big, and which means that there are like a lot of contributors and a lot of amazing new ideas. So I would say it's a mix of both. So we do have a process. The release team has a great process on tracking what goes into like it. There is a period where the SIG is a special interest group, and it's like, think it like a verticals within the Kubernetes core components, or like Kubernetes ecosystem. So the chairs opt in for what features they want, or they are foreseeing that it will go into the release. So that gives us an idea. That gives the release team an idea of the list of things. So we keep track of them, and we gently nudge them. And I want to, by gently, I mean that every week, uh, when closer to the deadline, it's almost every day. And I am so sorry for that, but that needs to be done. So that we can get the features in. We don't want the people who work really hard and the people who are expecting these things to be available in this release to wait for another release. And we are also a little bit stricter. So we do all these nudges, and we help facilitate things. And there are periods where you can ask for exceptions, telling that, hey, I'll be like 5 days late. And this is the reason I will be like 5 days late. And if it's valid, we let them. But if they miss all these things, the feature gets kicked out of the release. Unless and until it's a very critical bug fix, or like it's a very critical security issue or something like that, that goes later after the code freeze. But you know, code freeze has been a very big hot topic right now because the period has been extended to 1 month ish, and there's been talk, and I think Josh knows a lot about it. So it has to wait. So if you miss that, there are like a couple deadlines, and if you miss that, it has to just wait for the next 2 days, which is like pushes it out by another 4 months or so. So I'd say like it's a mix of both.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I generally prefer the kind of train model, right? Is often what it's referred to is where, if you don't make it on the train, you just wait for the next train. As you kind of do the releases, because I think it gives a lot more reliability to the overall project and for kind of the consumers of the project. But as you say, there are exceptions, right, for security or some particular bug fix, etc. So that's interesting. I think that's helpful to kind of know. I did want to ask both of you, because I'm kind of jealous about KubeCon, because I was teaching classes, so as a result, I was not able to go. But I had planned to, so I'm really curious. What would you say? And I'm kind of ask both of you. Maybe Savitha start. What would you say was kind of your biggest benefit, positive, whatever, that of kind of being there in person, or of the conference itself, first, and then I'm going to ask you in a few minutes about like what are the top 2 talks or something that I should go back and watch on rerun. But start with the first one, and then I'll ask Josh, and then we'll come back.
Sure. So for me, this time especially is all about my friends and the community who I have worked with for the past 1.5 years. They got me through pandemic. So the release team 1.19 was the longest release for 6 months. It was because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
We wanted to adjust a whole bunch.
Yeah, I was going to say, right, speaking of the train, that was the one missed train, right, is that we had 2 years of on-time Kubernetes releases, and then COVID hit.
Yeah. So I relied on the Kubernetes community a lot to just get through the pandemic. I look forward to the meetings. I look forward to seeing my friends. So for me, it was all meeting people. It just gave me a lot of happiness just by meeting them. Especially in this KubeCon, if someone asked me what you did, it's like I met all my friends. I mean, I missed a few of them who couldn't make it. I'm hoping that I would get to see them soon. But whoever made it, I really loved meeting them. And the one thing that gave me another happy moment is that like Josh mentioned, I recently joined Red Hat, right? My team's awesome, and they are all in Raleigh, and I haven't met them in person. I'm looking forward to. And I feel welcomed being a part of Red Hat, but being there and meeting more people. And when they said like, I got my first swag, a cap and t-shirt, and I love stickers, so I got a lot of stickers. Meeting them, meeting more Red Hatters made me feel like really, really like, oh, I belong here. The sense of belonging. I got
Totally.
that. So these are the 2 things that like. For me,
I'm
personally.
just curious, what percentage would you say of the people you met there was the first time you met them in person? Ballpark, obviously.
I want to say like 80%.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. It's crazy. I was just thinking about it, like, I did a Twitch show for like a year and a half or something with Chris Short. I still have never met him in person. So it's been a very weird experience, this whole like pandemic thing. Obviously, as well as all of the actual pandemic sickness and all that jazz. But it's just how our lives have so much changed. So Josh, what about you? What do you feel like the biggest thing was?
It was actually kind of the same thing. I think Savitha will agree with me here is the funny thing is, because it was a hybrid conference, because it was split between the people who were doing the online conference, the people in the in-person conference, and we had a much smaller in-person crowd. This KubeCon, for the in-person felt a lot like KubeCon Seattle, maybe even KubeCon Seattle the first time, in terms of size, and sort of disproportionately full-time contributors were there, because obviously they had the bigger incentive to make it work, to show up. And so I got to spend a lot more time talking to people in depth, and seeing the people that we work with on the project, which was super nice. I mean, KubeCon San Diego in 2019 was very exciting, but it was also kind of a circus experience in terms of there was constantly things going on and you could almost not focus on anything. So I mean, look, this is super nice because all these people that I've spent, I mean, little difference to me, I was seeing a lot of people that I have seen before in person, but I haven't seen for 2 years in person, right?
Right.
So I got to see all of these people again for the first time in 2 years. Sadly, not anybody who had to, come in across an ocean because that wasn't really possible. But I got to see all these people I hadn't seen in 2 years. Spend some actual time with them. Like, for example, we were going to have the contributor summit. I on Monday realized we weren't going to have enough people to do the usual sort of multi-session, multi-room thing that we had done for the last couple of in-person KubeCons, and decided to just make it a full-day work session. And it was actually kind of nice. We got a bunch of stuff sort of hammered out. For contributor documentation, main documentation, the network folks worked on a bunch of things. So it was nice from that perspective. And for some of the new projects, I was able to actually learn something about them. Because what's happened for the last KubeCons is the conference is so distracting that you actually do your learning after the conference. You're
Right.
like, oh, that looks really interesting. I'm going to watch the recording of the video after the conference so I can actually find out what it was about. And this time I was actually able to sit in a room for an hour and find out what the Pixie project was and what Sig Store was and those things, so that I actually had some idea of what was going on with it. So I realized that the Linux Foundation will want us to go back to having 15,000 people in person. And of course, 15,000 people want to show up. But I actually kind of liked having the smaller in-person KubeCon.
So shameless plug, of course, if you want to know more about the Sig Store project, you can watch episode 3 of this show, where we interviewed one of the leads. So kind of bring to that. I mean, it's kind of all I can think of, and I'm not sure that the comparison is completely apt, but it's kind of like seeing a band in a club, right, versus an arena. That kind of much more intimate experience it's a very different experience, not necessarily a bad one. Like, one isn't necessarily better or worse than the other, but the takeaway is quite different. So it's kind of interesting. I go to a lot of the Fedora ones, like the Fedora developer conferences, whatever, and they tend to be smaller, right? But then you have OSCON, right, or you have what used to be called LinuxCon. So those are the very different experience. So the hallway track is always nice. And just for anyone on there, the hallway track is the jokingly, named when you are not really attending a lot of the sessions, but instead are able to talk to people as, either people you've worked with before or new people to get new ideas. Because if you have a bunch of people in the same room kind of thinking about the same thing, sometimes new ideas, new perspectives come up. And it can be a lot of fun. So is there anything that either of you would recommend that we definitely go back and watch? And obviously, shameless plug again, Savitha, I believe you gave a talk, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But obviously we should recommend that one. But is there anything else that you would recommend that people go back and check out? Either one of you is totally fine.
So for me, I have a bunch of security talks that I want to catch up on. I don't remember the name. I just remember the speaker's name, so I was gonna go search by that. One was like Brad Giesman. I think I'm saying his last name right. If not, I'm sorry, Brad. And by Ian Cowater. and the other one is like by Tabby Sable and Ellen Corpse. I think I'm saying the name right.
Yeah.
If not, I'm so sorry, Ellen. So these two are the talks I want to watch, and I really loved one of the keynote. I mean, all the keynotes were amazing, inspiring. And one thing that I really enjoyed was Caslin Field's keynote, because I relate a lot to art, and she had used her own art in the keynote, and that was educational and also fun at the same time. And I thoroughly enjoyed it personally because I really loved seeing those art and how to relate, and how DNS is always a pain. So that was mine. To be honest, I spent a lot of time focusing on people than talk, so I'm hoping to catch up later. So
Right.
sorry, I'm not of big help here.
I thought that was interesting. I mean, so kind of there are definitely some of the security talks you thought were interesting. The keynotes, I am like the opposite of your typical jaded conference goer in that I actually love keynotes, which I think is kind of an unusual thing. But they always like almost every time they really inspire me to kind of re-engage with a project or whatever conference it is. So yeah, I really appreciate them as well. I was actually going to ask you, but we'll sidebar for a second. Josh, is there anything else you can recommend, or should we kind of move on?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the big theme for this last KubeCon was security, both in the sense of stuff like network security and in the sense of software, bill of materials, etc. Secure pipeline.
Right.
And so there's a lot of stuff with that because post SolarWinds, every company within the Kubernetes ecosystem has spent time in the last year working on stuff. And a lot of that stuff got presented at this KubeCon, maybe all of that stuff. And so I think it's actually worth picking up some selection of those talks to understand what's coming, because a lot of this stuff like SBOM, et cetera, that was looked at as kind of optional and nice to have is now going to be required, which means if you're working within cloud native, this is going to be like in production, this is going to be something that you now need to worry about.
Right.
I know within Kubernetes itself, we're like, okay, we're going to attach all of these annotations to all of our objects as required. And that's going to happen like in the next release. So it's going to be a thing for everybody. And as usual, there's some new things presented. I personally was very interested in the Pixie project, simply because it's an attempt to apply machine learning to metrics. One of the things I've been saying since my database administrator days is that we need more intelligent metrics, not more metrics.
Right.
That just giving us more data does not necessarily help operators.
Right. Yeah, I talked a while back with a guy who ran one of those kinds of companies, and their idea basically was it's like you can kind of set a baseline, but you need some sort of like AI or ML or whatever to kind of modify the baseline over time to either kind of go up, go down, whatever, to make it so that the spikes aren't looking like they're different from the baseline when the baseline is what's actually changed, right? And doing that as kind of with hard-coded config files is difficult at best, right? So I totally agree. So that's cool.
And beyond that, whatever people's focus is within the universal cloud native, I'm pretty sure you can find at least one talk. The other big thing is KubeCon includes this whole maintainer track, which is the various Kubernetes SIGs, the various projects within the CNCF, presenting their something they're currently working on, so that people can know how to get involved in that sort of thing. And so, like, if, for example, you're in the position that Savitha was in 2 years ago, looking for your way into this whole ecosystem as a contributor, take a look at that track, because a lot of those talks end up with and here's where we need help.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's funny. I was also thinking when both of you kind of were focused on kind of supply chain and security, you know, there's kind of a common mantra right now, right? Of, you know, every company is becoming a software company. Maybe the caveat to that or the addition to that will be, you know, with, you know, fingers crossed, will be every company is also starting to become a security company. You know, I'm not sure I can quite hold my breath yet, but, you know, it's definitely trending in the right direction, I think. So that's good. So Savitha, what was the talk that you gave at KubeCon this year?
So I had one maintainer track session that is for Sig Security. I helped lead one of the sub project, Sig Security documentation. And if you're looking for contributing, please stop by. We are looking for a lot of new contributors, and I have got a lot of ideas, and I welcome everyone's ideas so we can learn together. That is the biggest thing for me there. So that was one of the session. And the other one was a virtual session, and that was a student track session. It was open source introduction to open source OSS 101. I think Langdon will appreciate that OSS 101 label there. So
Yeah.
that was all about like how students can get onboarded into this cloud native space, and we talked a little bit about the imposter syndrome, which projects to choose, and how it can help your career, the experience and stuff like that. So that was my other session.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'll definitely find that one and you know, at least pitch it to my students. It can be difficult. But yeah, that's definitely
So,
interesting.
so is Sig Security what you're going to be working on for the immediate future?
Yes. I am also trying to get back to Sig Contribex, and I've been working on quite a few PRs. And when Josh said that we hashed out few things, and I was like, I have something in my laptop that I haven't committed back. That was a good reminder. Thank you. So yeah, these are the two things that I want to focus on. So I'm giving myself break until like Christmas, so that I can start fresh next year. Getting back to country bikes, I got a lot really burnt out last year and this year. So this is my time. So I'm trying to make myself like happy, take care of myself so that I can do better. So yeah, Sig Security and country bikes is something that I want to start contributing back.
That's cool. Yeah, I think those are you know, kind of two important kind of areas of the project. I did want to ask you, and you kind of alluded to it with talking about the keynotes. Where does your Twitter handle come from as Coffee Art Girl? You know, do you have an art background?
I do. I love art. Art is a part of everything that I do. So there was this time that I started painting with coffee. So I mixed up instant coffee powder, which was easily available at my home. So I started doing paintings, and that was a time that I was doing a. So Sig Contribix also has panel. I think Meet Your Contributors. I don't know if it's still happening. I'm not sure. So that was the first time I went on that, and Paris was like, "Do you have a handle?" So all I could think of was like coffee art, and then like, okay, I'll just tag something along. So I just put coffee art girl together. So that's how it came into existence.
I like it. It's good. You know, it's always good when your handle has a backstory. You know, it's tougher when it's an arbitrary thing.
Okay.
But yeah,
I am
cool.
I am totally drafting you for contributor art stuff. Because like I said, that was the thing. That was like my takeaway from Caslin's keynote. I'm like, I'm getting you to do a T-shirt.
Oh, that
After I saw her keynote.
that
Yeah.
art was so wonderful. I'm more like abstract kind, but yes, I will be happy to help because I love doing it. And right now, I am teaching myself how to crochet. So I'm crocheting, and my projects are always big. So my best friend just had a baby, so I'm trying to do a blanket for the baby, and I'm a beginner,
Nice.
so it's like I'm struggling. There have been many
Oh, but
times
you have
that
to do, but you have to make like a coop cuddle or something.
Right.
We've got. Speaking of the collection of open source stuff, So here is a Postgres project logo come to life, crocheted
Right.
by one of our Portlanders here.
Nice.
That's wonderful. I actually, Josh, I looked for patterns because I'm not there how to
Yeah.
make pattern I can follow.
Mhm.
I have searched for Kubernetes logo pattern
Yeah.
for like ages, and every couple of weeks or like every month when I take a new project, I go back and see if that pattern is available or can I make it or something. And I also thought about an idea for an app. So I wanted this phone app to be something that can take art and convert it into crochet or knitting pattern. So I have so many ideas. So if someone wants the voice, they can just
So
reach out to me.
I should introduce you. So there's a woman named Christine Flood who works at Red Hat, who is also big into kind of knitting, let's just say, as kind of a gross subject area. And she actually spent some time working on taking patterns and converting them, basically trying to make a universal, like a DSL for them so that you could feed them to like auto looms, as well as creating, whatever you call it, like hand stitching patterns or hand knitting patterns, but I'm not sure if it goes back to art, or I think she might have started at CAD drawings basically. Yeah, so that is, you are not alone. And I also remember actually years ago, there was a big trend in consulting, because I come out of consulting, right? Where a lot of people started knitting on planes as a way to kind of pass the time and do something with your hands or whatever. And I saw some amazing stuff that people had created while, flying across the country. So yeah, I think you're in a good space. But I like I've actually heard, I think, of that not being an uncommon style to use coffee grounds as a painting method, but instant coffee specifically. So I think that's really cool. I'd really like to see. I really want now a calendar of art by Kubernetes contributors, basically with wall art or whatever. I think that'd be super awesome. Not just t-shirts, but like something I can like hang up and change every month. So let's talk a little bit about kind of forward looking. So what do you kind of most like, what is the biggest gap you see, or the biggest thing that you want to see change kind of about Kubernetes over the next few years, let's say?
So the project as a whole is getting it's on the way to maturity, or I would call it's a very matured project. The one thing that I want to see is like there is a lot of efforts to include more and more people based on more be more gender inclusive, be more geographically inclusive. I see a gap there. Like the good thing is that there's been like Kubernetes community days for Africa, but I don't see a whole lot of people from there. And Australia is like so secluded for I don't know why. Like any of the meetings
It's
that we,
time
it's hard.
zones.
It's
It's
hard,
time
right?
zones.
So
Yeah.
I would like to see the project move towards, we are doing asynchronous collaboration awesomely well these days, like at least for Sig Security, we are doing a lot of asynchronous collaboration. We did it in release too. The release team, it was like geographically spread, except for one of the countries of the continent always missing. My ideal dream would be to see everyone or all around the world participate at the same time. So I like to see like a little bit more inclusivity, encourage like all kinds of like gender
Like participation.
minorities, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
participation. And there's been a lot of efforts going on. To be honest, when I went to 2018 KubeCon, it was like majorly the so my it might be funny. So when I went to the women's restroom, I came out before my colleagues who went to the men's restroom. That is a really, really big thing that because like there were no one basically not much women or not much
Yeah.
gender minorities there, but that has significantly improved. But I'd like to create much more. I like to see that we create a lot of much more safer environment, so that everyone can come. We are already doing amazing. So I don't have anything to like say that this is not right and this is how we should do it. I just I just like to see more of that.
More.
Like,
Right.
like don't stop it there. Let's just be like more welcoming. It's already awesome. I just do it for the people, like I said. So I just want to see. I just want everyone to see how amazing it is. And to be honest, it's okay if the project is big and overwhelming and you don't want to start here. There are amazing other CNCF projects which are small too and not overwhelming. But I want this community to be like a standard for other communities, that they can take a page out of this community, how it is getting governed, how we do things here, and adopt it. That's what I want to see. I don't know if I answered. I know I just told everything that I want really quick. So
I think, I mean, I like, at least I'm hearing an answer, right? In the sense that you want to see kind of an expansion of the community that really kind of reinforces and encourages the diversity, that, you know, there's some legwork done, right? There's some of the work is done, but that, you know, an increase of that, of those efforts would be beneficial to the overall community. And I would actually argue that the Kubernetes, like you're 100% right, like it's getting really big. But the nice thing about kind of having all those kind of like sub projects or whatever is that there are some places where you can fit in, right? You can get connected without having to kind of wrap your head around the entire project kind of all at once. And you know, it's funny that you bring that up as your kind of biggest, you know, kind of goal or what you want to see in the future, right? I mean, that's partially why I joined the faculty at BU. Is my objective is to kind of go from the other direction of, you know, I want to get them while they're young, right? So as soon as possible, I can start to pull in people who are, you know, a little bit more diverse, a little bit more, you know, kind of non-standard in the what we see in our field, because, you know, frankly, the best ideas come from a wide range of backgrounds, you know, and if we don't have a wide range of backgrounds, then we think very small. So the only way you can kind of solve these big problems is by encouraging, you know, groups of people to work together that are as diverse as possible. So with that, is there, what else, is there anything else, maybe something small or specific that you are also interested in kind of seeing happen over the next, you know, couple of years? You know, that's a big lift, what you've described, and hopefully it can happen. But are there any point things? Are there any, you know, kind of little things that you would mention as well?
Not that I can think of anything. I would like to help the community get there, and I can't, for some reason I can't think of anything right now. So generally
That's
I
the
have
hard part about being on the
a
spot,
lot
right?
of thoughts going on, but right now I can't think of any. And I just wanted to go back and say one thing. So if you are, so KubeCon introduced a students track. So there is a whole bunch of things for students. I know I'm just taking this conversation in different direction. I'm sorry for that, but I
That's
had to.
totally fine.
So if you want to give it to your students, or like if you want to just spread it, spread the like the track name, or like there is like 5-6 good talks sessions that happen this KubeCon, and that's gonna happen in every KubeCon from now on. So if students want to submit, they want to present at KubeCon, they can go ahead and do it. And if they want to learn from the student session, there is things, and there is CNC of students, so they can go to that, or is it an organization? I don't know. That is an initiative, CNC of students, so they can go there. And that is very dear to my heart as well. So I want to help the students as much as I can. Thank you. There is a link already in the chat.
Yeah, they beat me to it. I was looking forward to.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, like, I think there's been a bunch of conferences in recent years that are starting to really introduce a solid kind of student track, you know, where both as speakers, but then also as, you know, kind of a more accessible content, right? You know, a lot of the time when you go to a conference, it kind of expects a certain level of knowledge, which can be hard for somebody who's either new to the project or new to computing, you know, and I completely agree. I think encouraging people to get connected as, you know, as early as possible is definitely an advantage. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Let's see. So What else did I want to? Josh, did you want to ask about something else? I thought you had something on your list.
The oh god, kind of when yeah, I would ask more stuff about the release team, but I think we kind of covered it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, yeah, right.
I mean, one thing actually that's been kind of a recent discussion is we talked about how you got into the release team and everything else, right? And the release team has historically been a way to get involved in Kubernetes if you didn't otherwise know where to start and you didn't know anybody. Getting a spot on the release team has become much more competitive. I think we discussed that there were 185 applications for whatever it is, 24 spots, something like that.
Yeah.
On the last cycle. Would you still recommend that as for somebody coming to Kubernetes, wanting to be a contributor for the first time, or would you recommend that they go to some other team that might have more openings?
Oh, yes, definitely. So I was thinking about it, and I've been telling folks that there are other places in Kubernetes that has equal opportunities. The only thing is that it doesn't get like the folks cannot find it that easily. For example, there was a recent mentoring effort in Sig Docs, the one that Paris Pittman was leading. It was like a cohort program for how to become a reviewer, how to be an active participant, or like how to keep the Sig going, basically. Encouraging long-term contributors, but I don't think it was aware. It was not everyone knew about it, right? So there are like awesome opportunities like that. So I would encourage folks to check out KDev mailing list, because everything, any new opportunity, be it small or big, goes to that mailing list. And Kubernetes contributors Twitter handle gets even it posts like some good issues at times, and I think off late they have been tweeting various things that needs help, who are looking for new contributors who can help with certain little features or big features, whatever they have, little or big, no matter what. So they are they are looking for help, and that gets posted in Kubernetes contributors. And I also think what would benefit more is just if we have a structured mentoring programs in other SIGs or other places. I think that would help well as well. It's not like SIG release. A release team is the only place where you can get started. There are other places, and there are other little new issues, good first issues, help wanted issues, so many things that's going on in Kubernetes. So that's what I would like to highlight, and tell all the contributors who want to contribute here, right? Because it's the release team has gotten very highly competitive, and like Josh mentioned, it's like handful number of hosts. Like when I was leading, I had like 39 people in the release team, and this time I think they only have like 29. So more people, it's very difficult to mentor. You can never mentor more than like three. Three is a lot, because it's the release team is like a full-time job, so it's not doing enough justice to someone who's trying to be a part of the team. And also by being a part of the release team means that you learn something, and you can move on to different aspects of the Kubernetes ecosystem. So for example, for me, I was a shy person. I'm a shy person. I get anxious, jittery. I don't speak up that much. I have gotten here because I started contributing there. Right? I never showed up my face in the meetings. I still do sometimes, but I never wanted to speak up. I got to lead meetings, right? So I gave the opportunity to others to lead meetings, because that's a small thing, but it can have bigger impacts. Now I have enough courage to just show up and lead some other sub project. Um, so that's what I think. I just diverted from what Josh asked to something else. Sorry about that.
Well, that is kind of the nature.
No, that was the question. Totally, so I guess so. Does Sig Security have a new contributor program of anything, or is that going to be something you're going to start?
We are going to have triage sessions. One of my other project owner, one of the other project owner called Pushkar is organizing a triage session. So I said that why don't we do for the entire Sig Security? So he is going to do that, and I think he is setting up the invite. So once it's there, I'll just post it out or share it on my Twitter so that people know it. And if it's like a every week program, we will send it out to KDL mailing list so that people can come and participate. So that's one thing that we are trying to do. It's a team effort, so it takes a village to get everyone like help the new contributors. That's how I feel. I think it's a different proverb. I just use like different thing for it's a proverb for different thing. I just used it for mentoring and nurturing new contributors. It definitely takes a team.
Yeah, I was actually going to comment. I think it's actually come up before too, is that, a good entry point into a lot of projects is often, kind of the docs team. Because if you can write documentation for whatever you're working with, that usually means that you understand it better than the engineers, or can, depending. So I think, it sounds like two entry points, right? That might make a lot of sense. The Sig Security and the Sig Docs. But I would kind of also add is that I think the Kubernetes community is kind of working very, very hard to be kind of inclusive and accepting and supportive or whatever, kind of across the board. So even if there isn't a formal program, there, it's kind of like the teams are trying really hard. So like kind of showing up to, and I think like triage meetings, I think you both kind of glossed over why that's important, is that kind of going to the meetings and listening to what's going on, like in a triage, for example, is a really good way to get connected to a project, because you can just start to kind of hear what's happening and why people are interested and what the problems are, and and how you might be able to contribute by picking up something off of that. Is that I think you both agree with that statement, but I think that's kind of why you want to talk about the triage meetings, right, or other meetings that you should be aware of.
So there was one bug bash, I think, that happened for the last release, and that was successful too. And that was an event that went on for a couple of days. There were like co-champions, or like there were people from all around the world who facilitated it. Like the first 8-hour shift was taken care by someone, and so there are things like that. So it's just not about issue triage, and it's like there are these bug bash kind events, and there is mentoring events, and even how to be a reviewer. There are like marketing events too. You don't always have to contribute to code. That's what I say to people. There are other aspects of the program. All you have to do is like show up and say hi. Saying hi is the that takes a lot of energy, and that is the most difficult thing. And once you say hi and ask for help, someone will definitely help.
Yeah.
And that
yeah.
I had to learn it the hard way, so I'm just telling everyone.
Well, and easing into saying hi is a great way. Like you can ease into it by kind of going to the meetings. You don't have to participate. You can just listen, right? You can read the docs, right, or make little suggestions here and there about things. So getting engaged, right? There's as you said, right, is like there's a you can do a bunch of stuff to make it more comfortable for getting to saying hi, and but once you kind of can volunteer something or whatever, then there's probably there should be, or generally speaking will be, support for your continued contribution. But yeah, thanks. And I think we're just about at time, so I kind of thought this might be a good opportunity to wrap it up. Did you have any closing remarks or anything you wanted to kind of suggest that we might have missed? Sorry, that was to Savitha.
No, I can't think of anything. As I just want to say, like, if any new contributors want to help or want to just chat, just reach out to me in Slack. And if the replies are delayed, I will get back to you all. But I also take break over the weekend, so I just want to tell that sometimes maintainers and the contributor, like the project the people who are helping others, mentors, and everyone needs. It takes a while. It's open source and it takes a while. So I just want to ask everyone to just please be patient to everyone in the community, not just be like to me. Practice kindness, and yeah, that's it.
That's great. I mean, it's always great to have people who are, kind of proactively interested in kind of fostering new membership in the community, kind of related, right, to having patience, right? As I really like the kind of going trend, whatever you want to call it, where a lot of people are putting kind of in their signatures in email, my working hours aren't necessarily your working hours. So, don't take this email as a requirement to respond quickly. But it kind of, it's a little bit more than that, right? In the sense that, we're all humans, we're all in this, we're all in the same team. And if you can be patient with each other, we can get a lot more accomplished than if you get stressed out. So, Josh, was there anything else you wanted to close with, or should we call it a show?
No, yeah, I think it's a show, and I think we covered it. Thank you so much, for coming on to be interviewed, Savitha.
Thank you.
I really
Thank you, Josh,
appreciate it.
Langdon, and KBE Insider team for having me. And for the folks who are there on the call listening to me blabber, thank you all, and you all have a good, wonderful rest of the day, wherever you are. And if you need help,
Exactly.
you know where to reach
And join
me.
us next time. We'll be doing another show in about a month. We have to do the standard pitch of, click like and subscribe, and join us the next time, where I'm sure we'll have another fun, interesting interview about what's going on in Kubernetes.